And it's thinking, and we are finally live. Hey, everybody.
We are live.
Let's talk about repelling those people. Stop.
Breaking the cycle. Yeah,
Yeah. You know, breaking that cycle is important.
absolutely.
What cycle are we
For
talking
everybody.
about?
The cycle of drawing in narcissistic and or toxic people into your life, whether that be relationships, family, work,
Mm-hmm.
clients, team members,
Mm-hmm.
bosses, people who are out and have careers out in corporate America, bosses, coworkers. I know probably some people are watching going, yeah, how are you going to avoid that? It's not that you're going to avoid it. It's that you're going to respond differently to these people to where it doesn't affect you. It doesn't trigger you. That's the biggest thing, because these toxic people in all of the situations, relationships that I just described, there's a trigger there for a lot of people, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, he or she is such a beep, beep hole, right? Like, oh, I want to, and then some of the stories that we were saying off air where they can come in and wreak havoc on your business or, whatever.
Everything. They don't
So,
accept responsibility.
right.
Everything is everybody else's fault.
The blame game. Yes.
The blame game. I've worked with more than a few clients like that too.
Yeah.
I can't say I've had like a ton of relationships like that because I've been married for forever. Y'all can joke I was a child bride. I got married at 19 and our first date was on my 18th birthday. So I guess I kind of got lucky, but I can definitely say I've had those types of relationships with, colleagues, coworkers. And then,
Mm-hmm.
my personal favorite, colleagues and coworkers you can't always avoid, but you can kind of like move yourself away from them. But it gets trickier when it's a relationship with somebody or a family member, or it's somebody who wants to hire you and pay you a lot of money. And it's a
Yeah.
bit, and you're a business owner and they're sitting here waving the dollars.
Yes. Ooh,
Oh,
you
my
want to talk about
Lanta.
that?
Yeah.
We could talk about that.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
seriously, because
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So that's such a great example, Haley, because I mean, I think we've all experienced something along those lines, right? Where I think we touched on this a little bit last night too, where even if I know I've been in this position where I just needed the money to come in and this client had the money, whether it was a large amount or not, it was money. And here's the thing that people all of this is not complicated. It really isn't. Because when you're on that call and the client is,
Mhm.
like you said, waiving the large amount of money, or whether it's in person or whatever, there's a feeling that you get in your gut. There's a nudge, and there is the fork in the road, so to speak, right? Where you
Mhm.
can say, I'm just going to go here because I need the money, and this is a client and I know I can help her because you're confident in your abilities, whatever service that you provide. That's not the question. The question is this going to be a smooth ride going forward? Is this client going to be a pain in the,
Mhm. Yeah, is this one
ISS?
going to be bad?
Is the money going to be worth it in the long run? And the answer to that is no, it's not. You have to trust
Mhm.
your gut that when you get this nudge, that, because there's signs, there's always signs before you, the, that transaction happens, right? There's always red flags, so to speak, that happen. And oftentimes we ignore those, right? Oh, maybe that person was having a bad day. I mean, I did this in my relationship all day, every day. He was having a bad day. Oh, he doesn't like this and da da da. I just made excuses for him when in fact those were red flags and I ignored them. And this is, this is the fork in the road. You either ignore the red flags and pay for it down the line, or you trust your gut, even if it doesn't make sense, because you're like, but this client has X amount of money and they're willing to pay in full, and that would really help me out. And I could X, Y, and Z on the other side of that. So right now it doesn't make sense for me to say no, but in the long run it does.
Yeah, no, totally. And I mean, I think we've all, any of us that have had paying clients have been there and done that and had that person who's waving the dollar bills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I've got my
it really
kids.
Is trusting. It's really about trusting and trusting that, okay, I'm going to say no to this client because something is telling. I use the same example in dating, right? It's the same thing. It's just a different relationship, right? I'm going to say no to this client. I'm going to say no to this money. And oh God, that's so scary right now because I really need the money and I really need this client. But when you trust, which also, Haley, is a huge challenge that my clients share with me that they struggle in, is trusting. And I'm sure everybody on the planet has some kind of trust issues. Trusting
every single human.
Right, exactly. Ooh, can I share a trusting story that would help the audience?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this is so great. So I was on a call with a woman many years ago, and she had an aha moment during our call, which I've been using this story ever since because it really explains why we have trust issues, all of us. Okay. So she was with her 4-year-old son. They were at the store, and she was like, you've been really good this week in school and I want to reward you. So here, she hands him a box of different flavored lollipops and she says, pick one. This is, for you being good in school this week. So 4 years old, we know what we want. Kids know what they want at 4 years old, right? We are born trusting. This is why we have to teach children not to jump off of the coffee table. You're going to bust your head open, or not to talk to strangers because you could get kidnapped. And example after example like that. Kids, we're born trusting. Kids trust. We teach them how not to trust. So she hands him the box of all the different flavored lollipops. And 4 years old, he picked up grape, which was the flavor he wanted. And he was excited and ready to go. Come on, Mom, let's check out so I can have my lollipop. And Mom says, are you sure you want grape? Because there's all these different flavors here. And ooh, you really like strawberry. Watermelon's your favorite. Don't you want watermelon? And it was in that moment that there was a discovery of, oh, this is how the seeds of doubt are planted in our heads at a very young age. Because the little boy, he knew he wanted the grape. He knew that. Mom, and no, nothing against Mom. She was, there's nothing harmful here. It's just human nature, right? She wanted the best for her son. So she enticed him with a different flavor lollipop and said, oh, but this one's your favorite. And so what does he do? He puts the one that he wanted down and he chose the one that Mom wanted for him. Right. And so this is just one example of the seeds of doubt that are planted in our head at a very young age, over and over and over. This is a small example, but this happens on a daily basis. Examples like this over and over and over again. So by the time we get to teenage years, there's already been so much conditioning, right? And so much programming in our head that we're already having trust issues at our teenage years. And then go into the later years and it just intensifies, right? Because there's just been more, because when we believe now well, I can't trust this, or I can't trust that, or I can't trust myself because I've screwed up so many times, then we solidify that, and then we draw that into our world more and more, because now it's a belief. And then we attract trusting people and situations in our life. And it's just a pattern that keeps showing up. And it's because that pattern needs to be looked at closely and given our attention. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and it makes perfect sense about that, Oh, but aren't you sure you don't want strawberry or watermelon, or, ooh, wouldn't this be cool instead?
Yeah.
We start not listening to that gut feeling.
Exactly. We start to ignore it and think, or doubt it and think it's not accurate or it's not true, because time and time again, it's been proven and shown to us that it's not. Right? Starting with a story like that, with mom saying, oh, but you like this, right? And because the little boy loves his mom and trusts his mom and trusts that mom has his best interest at heart, he goes with what she wants. And how many times in life have we ignored what we wanted for ourselves and went with what the other person wanted? Right? Off just because that's the habit, that's the behavior.
Right. Yeah. No, when I think about that in terms of like, I see a lot of people get really caught up and carried away at events, and then they pull out their credit card and they're spending like crazy amounts of money because they bought into this idea of this dream that maybe isn't even their own.
Absolutely. Yep.
And that's why high pressure sales tactics work.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, this offer is only good for today, the timeshare offer.
Right.
And your husband has to be present with you.
Mm-hmm.
Because they know good and well, as soon as you go off and you go have a rational discussion about it, the answer is going to be no.
That's right. Yep. That's true. Over and over and over again. Yeah. So that's a example of how, when we're talking about repelling or stopping or breaking the cycle of these toxic people into our lives, whether that's family, business, or whatever, it's really just trusting your gut that this client is not good for me. This person is not good for me. If you want to talk about family members and they're already in your family, and you're like, well, how am I going to get rid of this one? Society has taught us that we are selfish if we think of ourselves, right? And or you're a B. You're a B if you think of yourself, right? You're supposed to, especially women, and I say that
you're supposed to sacrifice yourself for your family.
Right. Yeah.
You're supposed to put up with your behavior. I have a friend, and she'll know who I'm talking about, who got the lecture because she's off going to a family event soon. She's the one who got the lecture from mom about, well, you need to behave responsibly, not the other person.
Right.
Who, of course, is not a woman.
Right. Yeah. Don't speak your mind. Don't say what you feel.
Don't upset the apple cart.
Exactly.
Don't cause drama.
Exactly.
Don't be a bee.
That's right. That's right. And oh gosh, there's so much there, Haley. Like that just shows us how to shut down, how to not speak our voice, how to not stand up for ourselves, how to not be in our power. It also shows us to be people pleasers. It shows us to put up with toxic behavior. It shows us that you have to put up with toxic behavior because it's uncle or mom or dad or blah, 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 so-and-so.
Or a professor.
Or whatever. Yeah, exactly. Somebody in authority. Right, exactly. In which then it's repeated throughout life, right? Because if you did it one time and you've been conditioned, like this is what you're supposed to do, you'll do it again. Because this voice gets smaller and smaller and smaller every time something like this happens. It
Mhm.
doesn't get louder, it gets smaller. And these
Yeah.
people energetically know how, first, they know who to choose that they can
Mhm.
overpower, right? And people pleasers is a perfect example of that. Because they say
Totally.
yes when they mean no, they say no when they want to say yes. Yeah.
And they allow others to stomp the boundaries, and they
Right.
overcommit. And hey, mom, don't you feel guilty because you're not the PTA president? And doing all this stuff and all the responsibilities that we're supposed to take care of as
Mm-hmm.
moms.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Guilt and shame is the number one way for manipulation, is the guilt and shame. And I don't know if you, Haley, or your audience, I'm sure somebody knows about the map of consciousness by Dr. David Hawkins that he created through muscle testing, and guilt and shame are all the way down at the bottom. It's literally, shame is the lowest emotion that we can carry as humans. He logged it at a 20. Guilt is just above that. And if you look at certain organizations, we'll say, that is what they share and teach
Mm-hmm.
to get you to do what they expect you to do through guilt and shame.
Institutionalized guilt and shame.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's picked up in people. It's spilled out in relationships and families and corporate America,
Mm-hmm.
and you name it, it is everywhere.
Yeah. No, I remember a company once upon a time that, yeah, used a lot of those similar types of manipulation tactics with their employees for employee retention.
Mm-hmm.
It's really the psychology behind it, and the psychological warfare almost is
Mm-hmm.
fascinating. You know, how we get people to accept lower salaries, lesser benefits, and stay in a quasi abusive environment. If you look at,
Yep.
how some of the performance appraisals and everything else are done,
Yep.
Hey, we're going to tell you that we only hire the best, but then we're going to always tell you that, you're performing below average.
Mm-hmm.
How's that supposed to work?
Mm-hmm. Yep. It is fascinating. It really is. So you, the audience, once you can identify
Mm-hmm.
what's really going on, manipulation and control, and
Mm-hmm.
you can identify that quickly, this is exactly one of the ways that you can stop and
Mm-hmm.
break free from the toxic people.
Mm-hmm.
And then trusting your gut was another piece that's really important for people to realize. Like, it may not make sense right now. You may even think to yourself, I must be crazy right now to turn this client down and turn this money down. But I promise you that in the long run, it's going to be okay. It's going to pay off by you not taking the client and not taking the money versus the other way, and hating yourself. And Lord knows what else would be involved in that if you do take it, by not trusting your gut.
Yeah, totally. No, I get it. And that is the tricky part, right?
Yeah, it is. You're absolutely right.
And the
Yes.
bird in the hand, and I'm going to pay my bills, and I'm going to put up with this person and pay my bills. And it bleeds over into marriages and relationships too. A lot of times women will stick
Absolutely.
around because it keeps a roof over my head and food in my belly.
That's a huge one. Yes. And the guilt and shame, right? That's why I stayed in my marriage for so long. I felt guilty. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how could I take my kids away from their dad?
Right.
What kind of a mom would I be if I did that?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then when I did, so much had happened that I still felt guilty, because I was like, why did I stay in the relationship for so long?
Right.
Like, because you stayed, Denise, X, Y, and Z happened, all the traumas, the dramas, and all of that happened. So then I carried guilt for that. Like, I should have left early. I should have left a long time ago. It's the mind it can play tricks on you, especially because we've all been conditioned to have this in our minds, this guilt and shame, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then the ego goes crazy and you self-sabotage and you literally ridicule yourself for what you did or you didn't do. And it's a spiral.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we do it to ourselves.
Yes.
That's the amazing part to me, is how much of the pain we go through
Mm-hmm.
is entirely self-inflicted.
That was the exact words I was just thinking in my head. Yep. Self-inflicted.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
We just magnify it and augment it and make it that much worse.
Yep. It's self-inflicted because of the programming and the conditioning that we were raised around.
Mm-hmm.
What we saw, whether it was directly in the home or outside of the home, TV, or like we were talking about, organizations,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere in the environment,
Mm-hmm.
we've been conditioned. And that's,
I'm not going to be perfect if I do this.
Right.
I'm not going to have that perfect life. I'm not going to have that perfect home. I'm not going to have this. The list goes on. It's infinitely long.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
What will people think? Does it really matter? But we really get twisted, and we tie ourselves up in knots further and further and further.
Think? Yeah, that's a big one. What will people think? What will they think of me?
What will they say?
Yeah.
What relationships am I going to lose?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
How will I be viewed? Yeah. What will they say? All of those things. It's crazy. But once you go into self-discovery and personal growth, then you learn these things of how to eliminate these things so that you think completely different. You are a different person. And the three things that I shared today on this very topic was, one of the biggest things that you have to, in order to break free and stop this toxic cycle, is boundaries. And I shared that it's really boundaries with yourself first. Boundaries with yourself and being committed to those boundaries with yourself, then boundaries with others. So a lot of people teach boundaries with others first. Well, how's that going to work if you don't even keep the boundaries with yourself, right? And then the second thing was, what was the second thing? There was three things. One of them was self-love.
Mm-hmm.
And go real, stop the people pleasing. The second one was stop the people pleasing, like we were just talking about. You've got to stop the people pleasing, because narcissistic people, they energetically gravitate towards people pleasers, because when you look at it, people pleasers are givers and narcissistic people are takers. So there's a match there. It's not a good one, but it's still a match. So the second piece to that is to stop the people pleasing. And then the third one was love and honor yourself, to really love and honor yourself. And I gave the examples of using the question, like, if I truly and deeply loved myself, I use me as the example. If I truly and deeply love myself, would I have endured 22 years of an abusive relationship? No. Right? If I truly, in your audience can use this and fill in the blank. If I truly and deeply loved myself, would I, and then fill in the blank of whatever that is after that, to help them get clarity on the situation, right? And like you were just sharing, when these people show up this way and you put up with it, well, if I truly and deeply love myself, would I listen to this or take this client on and be abused during the process of however long the contract is for? Like, no.
Right.
Absolutely not.
Totally. I agree.
Yeah.
Love it. Tell me about the workshop and the VIP day.
The VIP day is this Saturday. It's from noon to 4, and it is Heal Your Heart and Find True Love. And it is a whole day of diving real deep into these topics that we've been talking about, Haley. And one of them is how to break free and stop attracting emotionally and unavailable toxic men. And I always leave room for some Q&A and some coaching time. I want to have everybody who attends walk away feeling super empowered and impactful. That's my goal for this VIP day. And the value is well over, I put on the page $1,400, but it's well over $1,400. But the VIP day is only $67. And we got worksheets. We're going to go into deep meditations. We're going to do exercises together because I'm a firm believer in let's do it together so that you can get the ball rolling. Because once, I know for me, once I started doing, exercises, homework exercises on the calls, it kind of wow, this is really, powerful. And then it kind of motivates you to do it when, after the call. The next day, make it a ritual, do it as your daily routine. So we're going to be doing all of that in the VIP day.
I love it. That is really cool. Y'all sign up. You won't regret it. It'll be amazing.
It will.
Definitely. And we're going to nag you about it all week. So do it sooner rather than later.
Exactly.
That is so cool. I love it.
Yes. Thank you.
I love it. I love this topic so much. It really hits a nerve for me. Yeah. Totally.
It's intense, but it's great because it's such self-discovery, and everybody needs to know this. Everybody needs to know this so that, because these, like I said in the beginning of our call, narcissistic people are everywhere. You're not going to literally never see one again. It's how you respond to it. So for me, now I just laugh. I'm like, oh, I can identify that quickly and it doesn't bother me. I'm not triggered by it anymore, where it used to, obviously, because I had some open, unhealed wounds. But now I'm just and they're not in my life anymore. But if I come across one networking or whatever, I can identify it super quick and it's no big deal anymore.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. The not being triggered for me is a huge one.
Yeah. Oh, triggers are my jam. I can talk about that all day.
We're going to talk about triggers tomorrow.
Okay. Let's do it.
Let's talk about triggers.
Okay.
Cool. We'll talk soon. Y'all, take care. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.